Hello guys, it's Taz101 Saga back for another video. I really miss making videos, but you know, man has to work all the time. However, I'm going to do a review of my suit today. This is an SSO Partizan-M suit. It's a reversible sniper suit. Got it from Grey Shop, which is in Moscow. It's run by a wonderful guy called Sergey Makarov, who you can find on Facebook. He will answer your questions very quickly if you've got any problems with shipments, etc., which usually you don't. I've ordered a couple of things from him now. This suit's made by SSO. It's the same company that makes the Smersh webbing that I reviewed some months ago. Both have been excellent. I've now skirmished with this in Airsoft on 6 full-day games, so I've got a pretty good idea of how effective it is, and I can tell you all about it, basically. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through it top and bottom. I can't fit it all in the frame at once, so I'll switch to the trousers in just a minute. And then I'm going to demonstrate 2 different loadouts I do, sort of an assault loadout with the Smersh, and then how I set it up for my sniper kit. When I'm deciding what camouflage to buy, I like to actually see it demonstrated with the rest of the kit on. Then you can get a better idea of how you'll actually look when you're all got all your stuff put together. So that's what I will be doing. Right, now, I've had a few bits of bad luck actually with Russian clothing items, as in they're often too small. So what I did with this is I actually ordered a size bigger, and I recommend you do that. There's actually plenty of adjustability at the waist anyway, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. There's a lot of cool features about this suit actually that you don't see a lot, even on sort of modern reversible suits. This isn't actually used as a standard issue thing for the Russian military. I'm pretty sure it's not, because I've seen people saying it's sort of too expensive to afford en masse. Obviously the Russian Federation is a very large military and a huge reserve force as well. These can often go anywhere from 120 to 200 US dollars. I'm in the UK and I paid a little bit less than that actually, because I got it on when it was reduced temporarily for on the website sale. But it's definitely worth the money, because you're essentially getting 2 suits in one. There's a quick look at the other side. So this is the summer side. I find this is probably a little bit dark actually for most UK forests, and on the camera at the moment it actually looks a little bit lighter than what it does in person. Right, so the actual material, it's not really thick and it's not thin either. I don't actually know what to describe it as. It actually just feels sort of like summery sort of trousers that you get. The arms, for a start, have these loops where you can attach camouflage, and I have actually even seen someone attach a drinking tube through these for a camelback. They actually had permanently affixed to the back of this, which was pretty cool. Actually, the hood is actually my only gripe with this. I personally wish it was a little larger, for considering the size that you're buying. It's quite proportionately small compared to how big the rest of the suit is. That's just my opinion. I'd just prefer if it was a little larger, a bit like the sniper capes and that they do on Grey Shop that some of the Russian military uses. This is more for special forces, I mean, hence the hood and stuff like that. You can adjust it if you wish to make it smaller. I mean, even on the larger setting, I don't do mine up at all. It's a wee bit small for me. It's not to the point where it's uncomfortable, but I just prefer if it was a little bigger. Although if you do that button up at the very top, although it goes right under your chin, it actually stops this moving over your face when you turn your head left and right. So that is very effective at keeping it out of your face. I will give it that, however. These buttons are very good actually, because this row of stitching, they're actually attached directly. They're not a separate thing on the back, so that makes them very robust. And you got the buttons on the other side there. And the pockets are reversible, and these buttons you can push through to the other side, which is the point of that slot. So although you've got buttons on both sides here, on the other side you don't have buttons. It's actually the same ones for both sides. I thought that was really cool when I first discovered that. You can just slip them through and use them on both sides, so you don't have you don't feel buttons on the other side no matter which side you're wearing. Going down to the middle, you have this it's not actually elasticated at all, but it's loose when you put it on, and then you can just tie it to sort of keep it on your waist, or you can wear it baggy. It's up to you. I don't like to have it too baggy, because then it tends to start flopping over your sidearm and your pouches, and when you're trying to reach for something you have to lift it out of the way, so it's better to do it up. Although I do recommend actually that you don't have this on tight, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. The pockets, however, the top ones are about this deep. In comparison, If anyone knows how big a VSR 10 magazine is for an airsoft rifle, there's a VSR 10 mag. You can fit that goes down to there, and there's that's the bottom of the mag there. So they're quite spacious pockets. The ones at the bottom are even larger, naturally. Although these you can't really get to if you've got a battle belt on, because that's the area where they're actually being covered up. Although if you have webbing, they're a bit more accessible if you just undo your bottom belt. These are some of the comfiest trousers I've actually ever worn. What I often do is I don't wear like Flora underneath. I have a set of that. I tend to actually wear thin pyjama bottoms under these. This material isn't fully windproof, and it doesn't really keep out the cold on its own. It just helps to, if you've got layers on underneath. I often find it's never been cold enough in the UK when I've used this. I've used this in -3, I think was the coldest I've worn it in. Your legs would be really cold if you only had this on, so I did have pyjama bottoms underneath, actually, and I found that was enough to keep my legs warm. I didn't need to wear battle dress trousers underneath it as well. That just gets too hot. But just a bit of advice there for if you're not sure what to wear underneath it. In the summer though, when it's sort of 15-16 degrees centigrade plus, you could just wear this as is. It's got a drawstring waist, just like a pair of trackies really. You also have this sort of fastener, forget what you call those, and you have buttons as well. And they've got covered up segments here. So the buttons aren't exposed on the outside, which is nice because they can't get caught on anything and ripped or whatever, because that's happened to me on the floor. Only trouble is, when you have this reversed to the autumn side, or the desert side, whichever you're using it in, the buttons are only on one side, unlike the top. So you're sort of doing them up very awkwardly, because you're actually doing them up sort of on the inside instead of there, so they're pretty hard to do up like that. I actually tend to just leave them undone. The last thing you want to do when you're desperate to suddenly go for a piss is have to fight and undo those, so actually just leave them undone. But when this is done up anyway, this doesn't actually open up. Right, pockets on here, you've got sort of conventional pockets where they'd normally be in a pair of jeans, but they're going kind of 45 degrees. Those are nice big pockets, they go all the way down to there on both sides. Then you've got the pockets in the legs, which are on your thighs, sort of just above your knee. I actually use the left one as a dump pouch sometimes with pistol magazines. Now on the back, there's two pockets on the back as well. These are butt pockets. These are quite a bit smaller. They only go down to there, so they're not quite as deep, but they're still handy. I tend to put my wallet in those, just because there's no excess space for it to bounce around. And the last thing about these is the same with a lot of combat trousers really. The bottom is elasticated, so you don't even have to tuck your laces into your boots. You could actually just hold them up and then roll this over. And I've found that actually stays in place all day, because it's tight enough that it just keeps it where it is. Also, water resistance of this suit. I have worn it in the rain. It's not waterproof. The water will go through. But if you've got something on underneath, it stops a lot of the real wet stuff getting through. The suit will actually absorb a lot of it before it goes through, and it doesn't get heavy when it's wet either, which is nice. You don't feel the weight of it, because this whole thing's pretty lightweight anyway. It doesn't weigh a whole lot, but it's nice sturdy material. All the stitching is good on that. You're not going to have to worry about this ripping up in no time at all. I mean, I've crawled all over the place with this. I've got it caught on God knows what. And it looks just as good as the day I bought it. Not worried about anything on it, structurally wise. Alright, so this is a summer side, once you throw it on. Bit of side, bit of back. No, I do tuck the hood in. I only tend to use that with the sniper kit. Because for assaulting, I don't really use it, and it just gets in the way, gets caught on your camel and stuff like that. So you can fold that in, and it actually creates a bit of a cushion around your neck, which to quite a degree does actually save you from painful neck shots, I've found, so that's handy. As for the front, you can access your pockets quite easily. A bit of advice about the trousers on these, I think this is important to cover. Now, they do come up high, and you do have belt loops. But although you have this drawstring you can tie, as soon as you stuff things in these pockets, which there are a lot of on this suit, so it's very tempting to fill it with stuff, at least it is for me, I do recommend you wear a conventional belt. If you do this up tight enough to keep the weight of all your equipment up, it really does dig into you and it's not comfortable. Last thing you want to do is you run around with that really. That's really just to get it where you want it. I'd recommend wearing a belt. And wear it up high. You've got plenty of baggage around the bollock area. So it's perfectly comfortable if you wear it up high. It's not going to give you a wedgie or whatnot. Right, so there's the elastic bits, goes over the boots. They do tend to stay where they are. They're very good like that. And the whole appearance of it is rather baggy. That's quite simple. That's just because it's an oversuit. It's designed to be worn over a battle dress uniform, like, well, whatever you want really. I haven't actually worn anything underneath it. I find it's actually warm enough just with a long sleeve shirt without an actual uniform underneath it as well. It's, what is it today, about 20 degrees, isn't it? Something like that. So yeah, I'm getting quite warm just standing here. So if you're in a very hot climate where you're talking like 15, 16 plus and you run around a lot, you probably want something a bit thinner than this. This is a more versatile kind of most of the year round suit. The perfect thing about it is it's actually ideal for winter. As long as it's not snowing, then you can go with snow camo if you wish. But because it is so baggy, you can adapt it. You can wear so many layers under this and not feel tight and encumbered. That's the beauty of it. You can throw it over pretty much anything and it's still nice and spacious. See what it looks like when you haven't got this done up. That's as wide as it actually will go. Now my actual torso is here, so you could throw a whole coat under that if you really wanted. Right, so here we are with my assault gear minus the eye protection. Always wear your eye protection, fellas and ladies. Doesn't get overly covered by camouflage. The best thing about camouflaging really that works is you want to cover as much as your body as you can with something that isn't skin colour. Says the guy who has these silly gloves, but you know, I've got to be humorous sometimes, haven't I? Watch too much Funker 530, that's where I get that from. Right, so there's a look at the back with kit on. Do a slow turn around. That's it really. Nice thing about Smash is, as I showed before, you can take it on and off nice and easily, and you can pretty much wear any webbing you want with this because there's no actual restrictions on what you can throw over it or clothing under it. So that's the assault side. This side isn't actually, although it's summer, like I said earlier, it's a little bit dark for a lot of UK forests I've found, but it does still blend in when you're in bushes and stuff. It's not that it doesn't work at all. It's just ideally you're looking, there's a lot more browns in kind of the UK forest, browns and dark browns and light browns rather than this sort of thing. This is Russian, so I think the Russian forests probably have slightly darker foliage from what I've read, so that's why they did it in this kind of pattern. Another thing that I thought I'd wait till now to mention actually is these loops. You can see that. I'll show you one I haven't put on yet. That coming out? That is to come over your middle finger. Now the idea of that is if you're crawling in prone, I keep getting electrocuted or static on something in here, but when you're crawling prone, this will keep the arms out straight. Now something that's important to do with this suit, because you do have a lot of length, you can have the advantage of doing this. Pull as much of it up as you can. Same goes for anything that's an oversuit really, but it's always worth mentioning. Pull as much of it up as you can. So then when you're actually stretching out, you're not sort of stretching on the arms. You want to keep it nice and baggy around this area, so it's much more comfortable. So you can go into any of the positions. There's not enough room here to go into prone and the like, but you can still do your encumbrance, and you're not encumbered by everything. So that's the summer side. What I'll do now is I'll switch it over to the autumn side, and I'll show you how to do that. In these somewhat cramped conditions, I will try and show you as best I can. Right. So flip this over, same with turning anything inside out. The trick is how to do the pockets right. So first just yank the arms through, and then like I showed earlier, the buttons are reversible to the other side. Totally lost my bearings here. Oh, there we are. Right, so how to do this affair with the pockets. You've now got them all sticking out on this side as you'd expect. It's not double-sided. So you flip, just demonstrate with two. You flip that over, and that's that slot I showed earlier where the button comes out. So just fill through on the other side, and you poke it through. Do it up or not. there you are, your pockets on the other side, simple as that. Same thing with all of them. And the trousers, which I won't show because this is enough to prove the point. Once you've pulled these through, do the pockets first, otherwise you won't be able to reach the bottom. Those will be like that, and this will be on the other side. So you just push it through that slot. Easy to do, and that way you can convert it fully over without having to have two sets of buttons on each side, so you don't have buttons actually pressing into you, which is the nice thing about it. Right, so here's the autumn side. This is what I've actually worn 5 out of the 6 times I've used it, because it's been very cold, and actually, you know, I've been wearing a lot of winter gear under this. Been using this with my brand new lovely jubbly rifle. Absolutely loving this. But I'm not going to talk about it because that's not what this video is about. So, there we go, another turn around again. Do intend to camouflage the rifle at some point, but as is, perfectly nice. This hood is not actually obstructing. Like I said, when you do this button up, it tends to keep the hood off your face, as you can see there. It's not actually causing any problems at all. Even when you're at an awkward angle, like I said before, I can't go prone here, I don't have the room. But as long as you pull this up, like I showed earlier, at the belt, there's nothing uncomfortable about any of this. So keep your head warm under it, because this will not keep your head warm on its own. So I recommend a balaclava. Like I said, it cuts out the wind to a degree, but it's not perfect. Make sure you keep stuff out the way, your holster as well, so you can still draw effectively and whatnot. That's the KJW CZ75, which I'll be using with CO2 eventually. So I have a full winter sniping kit set up. I love this actually. One experience I have had is I got shot, and when I went to the dead zone, the guy who shot me actually said if you hadn't moved, I wouldn't have seen you. And I realised actually when he shot me, he was only about 10 foot away, and he walked right past me, and I wasn't fully in the bush, and he didn't see me. That's because the bush I was against was practically all the same colours as this. It was a mix of brown, so this is a very effective camouflage. The fact he didn't even notice, and he walked right past me. It's only because I stepped out to engage someone with a pistol who had gone around the corner, and I didn't see him come up next to me. So it does show this as an effective camouflage. I haven't had that same incident or comments happen with the summer side, probably because I don't think that side tends to blend in. This, you're going to use this much more of the year round, especially in the UK, because this is a much more kind of effective camouflage pattern for kind of English woodland, because this tends to be more of what the colour is. I don't actually wear the gloves like that generally in the winter with the big white lettering. I just can't find any winter ones at the moment. But goes good with a pair of tan boots, just to keep the colour consistent. Not that you have to, but when you're trying to stay hidden, especially with this, I tend to wear very little. That's empty at the moment, but I just carry what I need for the day in there on me. So I've got very little stuff actually obstructing the camouflage pattern. Couple of pistol mags there, and that's it. So I tend to think it keeps it all sort of closed in, and it means you can keep your camouflage nice and baggy. The fact it's baggy as well, it helps to break up the outline. You don't have a perfect silhouette of a person, which is nice. Although, like I said at the start, I wish this hood was a little bigger because it would break up the headline a little more. I actually saw a photograph that was taken of me on the day. The only reason I spotted myself is I could clearly see my head in the background, and I thought, see, if that was more baggy, I probably wouldn't have seen myself on that photo. So I don't think it's absolutely perfect, but I have had a lot of time peeking over things, and people haven't noticed, I suppose, compared to when I'm not wearing this. So I'd say so far it's a very effective camouflage pattern. I do really love this suit. I'm really glad I bought it, because I can use it all year round with pretty much any kit I want besides the World War II kit I run. So definitely worth the money. I think I'll sign out there actually. I recommend this to anybody who wants something that's a little bit different, not just the usual, you know, the multi-terrain pattern stuff that everybody tends to wear. Why the camera's being zoomed in on my non-visible face, I'm not sure. But thanks for watching, guys. Please feel free to rate, comment, subscribe. Any questions are welcome, and I'll see you in the next bit of material I punch out. Thanks for watching.